We are live.
All right, I can't tell if we're streaming yet, but I'm going to go ahead and start. Good evening. Welcome to the Land Use and Building Management Committee meeting. I would like to call our meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, March 6th. It is 7:03 p.m. First item is roll call. Tonight we have with us council members Jim Frayer, Greg Burnett, Heather Dunn, Jen McMurr, Dewan Wiggins, and myself, Barbara Smith. We are expecting Nicole Ayers, who should be joining shortly. Next item is public hearing. The public hearing on the proposed equal exchange of land, approximately 2,000 square feet at city-owned Fodor Farm on Flax Hill Road with adjacent property owner at 25 Hoganus Street. Is there anyone who is in attendance who would like to speak on the public hearing? Okay. Doesn't appear that there is. And let the record show Councilmember Nicole Ayers has joined at 7:04. So since we have no one who is signed up to speak, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and move on to public participation. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Please raise your hand. Okay, it looks like we have Mr. Meek, perhaps. Could you please move him over and give him permission to speak?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome, Mr. Meek.
Thank you. Good evening.
Address?
Yes, please give your address.
Brian Meek.
Your name and address for the record.
Brian Meek, 11 Cranberry Woods Road, Norwalk.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for letting me speak. Just follow-ups on your previous meetings. I feel like we're really overpaying for this land down in South Norwalk. I just saw Curry's Tire sold for 1.5 million. It's double the size of some of the lots down there that you're paying even more money for. They certainly get a lot more foot traffic than that neighborhood down there. I know we need the land for this project, but it feels like we're leaving something on the table here. That's all I have to say. Have a happy and productive meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meek. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Let's see. Participants. I don't see anyone. Okay, I will then go ahead and close public participation and move on to the minutes of the February 7th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion, please? Ms. McMurr moves that. Are there any changes, deletions, additions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Wiggins, I didn't see your vote. Are you good?
Yeah, I was good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that passes.
I was trying to get to it, but
Okay, I know you were here. Okay, thank you. That passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to old business. A review request for land swap of approximately 2,000 square feet of city property at Fodor Farm and 25 Pogany Street. Subject to recommendation of the committee, this item will be forwarded to the Planning and Zoning Commission for Section 824 review in accordance with the state statutes and be forwarded to the full Common Council for final action thereafter. Will someone move that, please? Ms. Dunn. Thank you. Okay, we have, had this before us for discussion a couple of times. Alan, did you want to add any comments?
Just one very quickly, just so that there's a memo attached to the excuse me package, and this came to the committee probably a couple of times already for about 3-4 months ago. Generally speaking, it's a equal swap of land. The city owns Fodor Farm. We own about 11 acre, about 9 acre of it is designated as parkland. The other 2 is not. But that area has never been defined. So we used to have three houses on the property. We kept one and we sold two of them. And this is one of the two houses. And the property owner today, the property was sold to Doug Peoples back probably like 15 years ago now. And it was the city's intention for the property owner to try to preserve the house. It's really, it was an abandoned house with raccoons in it. That's how bad it was. And it was the intent of the city to the property owner to, it wasn't like for somebody to buy it, fix it up and flip it. It was really intended hoping that we're providing a residential unit for somebody that's interested in the city and staying in the city. And he turned out to be one of those people that renovated the house and been owning the property ever since he bought the house from the city. For the years, the property really doesn't have any like open area. It's all wooded kind of thing. And he did not cut down trees and stuff, but at the same time, using area on the other side of it, which is city property. At this point, he would like to just want to swap the property so he don't have to cut down the trees to create some open space, which is something we want to do. So it's really no change in value in terms of land value. And also the other thing, I mean, it's saving some money to cut down trees and stuff. And on the other hand, it's like, since we can preserve the tree, I think we should do that. And it's a good faith on both sides because again, we sold this property hoping that the people who buys it will maintain it and keep it the way it is, not develop it or anything like that. But at the same time, he is what we are looking for in terms of when we sold the property too. So from a staff perspective, it's again the type of land, generally speaking, is the same. So it's not like there's a better quality or wetland with swapping kind of. It's just basically the same type of property. So this has been come to the committee twice, and generally speaking, the committee previously has supported this, and that's why I went to public hearing. And after this, we go to planning and zoning, and the final decision will be submitted to the common council for approval. And in terms of, I think Mr. Barnett asked about a survey. I don't think Doug has finished the survey yet, but we will have one. Generally speaking, there's a map and attached to it, but generally speaking, that's the swapping with left side to right side kind of thing. So it's somewhat straightforward, but we will have a survey at the end of the day.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Yeah, and again, we have discussed this in two previous meetings. So are there any additional questions or comments? All right, very good. So then I will call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. All righty. That is unanimous. Okay. Very good. We know that Mr. Peoples will take good care, and it sounds like a good agreement for everyone. All right, moving on to new business. Review recommendation for construction manager for the Norwalk Community Recreation Center and refer recommendation to the Common Council for action. 1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Newfield Construction Group, LLC, as a construction manager for the Norwalk Community Recreation Center at 98 South Main Street. Terms of the agreement shall include pre-construction services, $17,000. Construction management fixed fees, 1.95%. Construction management contingency, 1.5%. Balance revert to the city at project completion. General conditions fee, $519,785. Actual amount to be determined at the time of guaranteed maximum price, GMP. Subsequent to trade contractors bidding, final GMP amendment will be submitted to the Common Council for approval. Funds for the pre-construction phase for this agreement are available from ARPA funds, account number noted. And 2, authorize building management to issue change orders on contract, example destructive testing, for a total not to exceed $10,000, account number noted. Will someone move that, please? Ms. Dunn? Thank you very much. We met just recently on the construction manager. So Alan, why don't you give us some
Sure.
specific background?
So recently we hired the architecture team, and we are in the design process. We're going through some design with exterior and all. I believe we have a meeting tomorrow and to review some of the information, the latest information. At the same time, it's important for us to start the hiring the construction manager. The reason being is that the construction manager provides with pre-construction services, which include cost estimating, reviewing items that are value engineering that, what we include in the building and not include in the building in terms of cost wise and needs wise in terms of building construction. And then after that, they will also look at putting together a bid package to go out to bid. They will get the technical specification from the design team and put a package together, working with our purchasing department and advertise the project. The project is scheduled to be completed design by this September, go out to bid in September, October, and then after that we will evaluate the bids and submit it to the council for approval of we call it guaranteed maximum price in late November to early December, because the ARPA fund has a requirement to start to have a contracted before the end of this year. So it is on a very tight time schedule. Regarding this, the RP, we issue RP, the purchasing department issue RP. We received 7 proposals. We set a little committee, including Barbara and I think Darlene, Councilwoman Young, and 3 or 4 staff members. So we reviewed it. We look at all the number. There's a different component to the proposal. There's pre-construction services, and as you listed here, fees and contingencies and general condition. General condition is a number that the construction manager provides staffing and trailers and all these kind of supports costs associated with managing the trade contractors. So that number is not fully developed yet. This is a reference number. It's $519,000. So once the project is fully developed, we can refine the schedule of construction. If it takes 10 months versus 11 months or 15 months, that cost will be adjusted. So there's variations. So we won't know the exact number until we go later on in the projects. So basically what we're approving is what is shown in front of you. It's we'll be contracting the $17,000. We will lock in the contractor's construction manager's fee percentage. We will lock in the contingency at 1.5%. And then the general condition is something that will vary as we move forward when we determine the length of the project and everything else that goes with it. Again, 7 proposals, and we review all these numbers, and we are recommending Newfield Construction. They have a completed number of projects for us recently. Currently, they're working on the South North School project as well as a Cranberry School project. And their number is very competitive as we compare to the other numbers we received. And one last thing is that if you notice B, I'm asking for $10,000. We typically, like a lot of time we do these things, it's like 5%. We're used to like 5% or 10% contingency. The reason why there's $10,000 here is because the pre-construction service fee is very low. And when we go out, when sometimes we need to do destructive testing or some stuff that we need we need to services, those cost like a few $1,000s at least to do. That's why I decided to put a $10,000 contingency in it. Sometimes we go hire a contractor to, take some test pits or something that costs us $4,000 or $5,000 just for that. So that's why it's 10 grand. So it's not typical like a 10% kind of thing. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions? Okay. Yeah, Newfield has done some really good work for us, and their price, my recollection is they're significantly lower than quite a few of the others, and I think equally low with one of the other possibilities. But yeah, they do good work for us. So I will go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Mr. Wiggins and I'm sorry.
I was voting for. My hand went up slowly.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Wiggins, are you for or
I'm abstaining.
abstain? Okay, so that is that passes with 6 for and 1 abstention. All righty, let's move on to B. Review request to provide relocation assistance relating to the acquisition of properties abutting New South Norwalk School and refer the following to Common Council for action. Authorize building management to process relocation payments to residential tenants, residential owners, and businesses at 28, 32, 36, and 38 Oxford Street and 16 Meadow Street Extension relating to the city's acquisition of said properties, subject to Health Department's review and recommendation for a total not to exceed $75,000, account numbers noted. Will someone move that, please? Ms. McMurr, thank you. Okay, so Alan, why don't you give us a little
Sure.
background and details? I mean, this is something that, we want to make sure that we help these residents and businesses move and find, a location elsewhere in the city. So go ahead, thank you.
Yeah, without getting too much into it, as you know, the city is building a South North School on the old Hatch and Bailey property. I don't have it, maybe I should have brought it here tonight. If you haven't never seen the property map, there's there's a butts two side on Meadow Street Extension on the bottom. The right-hand side on the east side would be South Main Street. There's a spur line, old railroad track line. There's a property that the city doesn't own. And then on the other side is Oxford Street, and there's 5 pieces of property on that side of the street. The Common Council, upon purchase of the property, start designing this project. The council had decided that it's the best interest of the city to acquire these properties to further enhance the South North School project. So I would say back around September last year, the decision was made to acquire these altogether, I believe, 6 property, 5 in Oxford and 1 on the South Main Street, which is a railroad spur line. Since then, the law departments are working with those property owner. I believe out of the 6 pieces of property, 4 of them, the law department has worked out a agreeable value for those property, and they're looking at closing on those property. The other 2 is more complicated, and law department is working on those 2. With those 4 property, plus the one on the corner, which we don't have a deal yet. They are residential. They're residents on those property. I think it's about 8 families. Most of them are rental. There's one of them is a family-owned house, and then they live in it. The other one's all rental property. As far as state statute, we are required to relocate the families, so and provide financial support in those moves. And I have in my memo, it talks about for tenant property, for tenant on the property. The cities are required to provide financial assistance up to $4,500 per family. So when they start looking for property and moving expenses, other things, we need to make payment to them. So that's the reason why I'm coming to County Council, because right now there's no agreement on how much we pay and stuff. So when the invoice comes in, I need something that show that I'm authorized to sign off on payment to those individuals. So it's not like a corporation. It's not like a contract with a corporation and things like that. It's really individual. Again, they're moving expensive. They're whatever some of these expenses are. Health department, Bill Mooney is the one that manages kind of relocation in case of fire. When people need temporary housing and stuff, he's the one that manages. So he will be the one that managing these requests, these invoices that comes in, and advise me whether this certain one is legitimate. They also have a responsibility looking for housing as well. So when he review all this information, then he will send me the invoice, I'll process it. So this action by Common Council allows me to sign off and make payment directly to individuals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Mr. Frager.
Thank you, Alan. How do we get to the 75? Is this just for the 8 families, relocation for the 8 families? That would be about 22,000, I would think, for 8 families. How do we get to 75, or is it more?
It's actually probably a little less than that. What happened is this: it's $4,500. It may not even 40. I mean, we are up to $4,500, so it could be less. Depends how quickly they find something.
Right.
There are cases where the city sometimes have very unusual cases that sometimes they end up in a hotel or motel. So that cost is not known. And if there's a situation that they can't find housing and we need to take the property, we have to temporarily place them. So again, we are trying to avoid all that stuff. That would be beyond the $4,500. So we have some time in terms of like, we still need to design those design, continue our design to improve that for the development of those property. But at the same time is, I think we are prepared to close those houses before the July of this year. But at the same time is that to the extent that if somebody can find some place, we may potentially have them stay a little longer, but we don't want them to just stay forever. But at some point is that there's a potential risk of need to provide temporary housing for them if we have to move them out. The other thing is that when for the owner occupied building, I believe is that it's $10,000 for relocation costs. So that's more than $4,500 for that house. I believe it's 10 grand because they're moving a whole family kind of thing. It's it's a fully occupied house instead of individual apartments. And then for commercial, it's also interesting because it's something to be negotiated because we have a contractor yard. So moving the material and stuff, there's different formulas to calculate that. So when you have commercial tenant, we have to, it's a contractor yard. So moving material and stuff could be a challenging thing. So that needs to be negotiated potentially. If the value of the material isn't there, we will just pay for the material. So it's more than just this I think it's 8 or 9 units. I think one of them might have moved out already, if I'm not mistaken. So there's more than the 8, but at the same time, there's still different unknowns about it. So that's why it's $75,000 to give a little flexibility to meet those needs if it comes up.
It seems like it's still, even if you say that, I mean, it seems like maybe only a little bit over half is what you just described, and half of the 75,000. So I suppose it's you don't know how many of those 8 families will need more than 4,500, and you also don't know how much the commercial or the owner occupied house is going to be. So, but that could be up to as much as 10,000. You think?
The house is up to 10,000. The commercial one is not defined.
Yeah, that's one that's up in the air. Okay.
For transparency and clarity, I think I'm hoping that it won't be 75. But at the same time, is this what we're requesting? And then I can provide the committee with as we move on, after get more detail, we can provide update. But it's just really give us some flex, some space to work within those regulatory guidelines. That's all it is. Again, there are unknowns about moving expense, commercial moving, as well as the unusual situation where we had to put somebody in a hotel for a little bit of time kind of thing. And we are really, really trying to avoid it because that can go on forever.
And this would all happen before July?
We are looking to close those houses before the end of July this year. I think it's 4 houses.
So it'll be in fiscal year next fiscal year.
Yeah, these are capital budget funds. So
okay, yeah, that's right.
So it doesn't really matter in the sense.
Are these reimbursable from the state?
No, they're not. The acquisition, when we first developed this project, it's based on $76 million for the new school, plus which included the land acquisition of the Hedge and Bailey property. These properties were never in it, so we could not add these property onto it, as well as we are just being capped on that dollar amount. So we don't have that flexibility, just kind of include them in it. And also they require a whole bunch of sets of pre-approval before we actually go acquire this property. So so far we identified 2.9, you may remember this went to Common Council for special appropriations, $2.9 million. We also currently requesting, I think it's $3.3 million, which includes some relocation costs in there kind of thing. And the other thing too is that we haven't spent money on design of this area yet. So there's design costs to be charged, as well as the actual construction of the area. Our budget is based on the construction of the Hatch and Bailey site only. So we add this area to it. It requires a construction cost. We estimate around 1.6, $1.7 million for construction of this area on this property.
Okay. Thanks.
Ms. McMurray?
Hi, Alan, thanks. So just to clarify, the $75,000 is cap. We're hoping to just go below that or just to
Right.
that if necessary.
Right.
And then how do we actually, I mean, do they come up with the cost or do you come up with the cost? Like, how does that organize and what does that process look like?
Yeah, so certain things, I don't know all the details. So if you need to, I can get more information. I talked to Bill Mooney a couple of times, and that's what he does. But
Mhm.
what happens is that out of $4,500, they have to show that they have to go to Realtor, start looking for places. And I think that they show that they go there so many times, maybe a week. I know it's per month. I think per week they need to show they go there once, at least twice or something like that. And don't
Okay.
quote me on that because
Yeah,
I'm just doing it from
but there's some
recollection.
sort of check-in process.
Yeah,
along
so
the way.
they have to just a little bit like, I don't want to compare to, no, so they need to show that there's effort being made to look for places. At the
Got
same
it.
time is that there may be costs like down payment deposit for rental.
Mhm.
So they need to document those things that, they find a place, it's $1,500 for rental or $2,000, and they don't have down payment, they need down payment assistance. So they will
Okay.
request it and then we will pay it. So they have to prove to Bill Mooney that these are actual expenses. They will have a contract for a lease or something like that to show that, so that the invoice go to him, he reviewed it and give it to me. And based on this approval, then I can sign off on it, because otherwise controller's office look at it and say, well, what is this for?
Sure.
Right?
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? And Alan, if all of these funds are not used, they go back into,
Right, it doesn't come out at all, actually. It's not like,
Okay.
like put this in a separate account. It's
Got
in it's in this account. I listed 2 accounts here. So these are, yeah. So it really doesn't take out account. We just kept it a part of our capital fund for these projects, for this project. So again, many times when we do similar to a allowance or contingency, most of the time I don't come back, or the city justice departments doesn't come back to council when we don't spend allowance. It's like we always do a construction project with a 5% contingency, whatever. I would say 95% of the time we never go over. If we go over, we have to come back to council. So what you see, we do come back, is what you see is all the cases where it do go over. But when you come under, we don't come back and say, geez, there's $100,000 left or two. So typically on something like this is a cap number for us. And we would spend what's needed, and then what's left, again, we don't make a point to coming back, but if you want, I can send track how much we spend and give you an update later on, 6 months from now, kind of thing. But
sounds good.
yeah.
Okay. Any final questions? Mr. Frere?
Yeah, I assume that this follows the same process that the CFO started a couple of years ago, where when something is put into the capital budget, over a 5-year period, the finance department goes in and looks at those numbers and checks to see if there's anything that hasn't been spent. And then it'll come back and say, wait a minute, you haven't spent $100,000 here. We're going to take that away if you're not going to spend it. The capital budget.
Yeah, be full disclosure. Building management, myself, we do that every year. We look at our items and stuff. It's some things are interesting. Something that, yeah, it's capital budget. We don't spend. We actually look at every year, and most of the time it's like school projects a little different. I mean, school project like they're a major project. They take multiple years. And the traditional, there's also reimbursement that doesn't happen to like 5 years later or 3-4 years later. So I usually hold on to those pre-balance a little longer. Okay. But then when you talk about other projects like a roof replacement project, after we're done, I think within a year or so, we just return the money because it doesn't make sense to sit there. I mean, the city hasn't bonded that money anyway, but at the same time, we just kind of clear those accounts because we don't like it when we go to the capital budget process and those people from BET are making fun of you. And Greg, they said, so what happened? This account was, so we have just the same interest of closing them because it doesn't do anything. And we just get, when people look at us, so why don't you finish those projects, right? So as soon as we finish, I want to close them. So we do it from building management. Some department may not, but that's for them to answer that question. But for me, it's that we are very actively looking at these numbers. So by the time finance department asks us, those accounts really have like $5,000 in it, $10,000 in it, and then for whatever reason we never close out. But on the major one, we usually close them out pretty quickly because it doesn't make sense for us to hold on to it.
Good.
You just froze, Mr. Frayer, so we'll,
That stuff will linger there.
okay. Okay, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item C. Review request to reimburse Norwalk Public Schools for Norwalk High School transportation costs for student athletes and refer the following to Common Council for approval. Authorize building management to reimburse Norwalk Public Schools for the cost to provide transportation for Norwalk High School student athletes to off-site locations through the spring 2024 semester as a result of the Norwalk High School Development Project for a total not to exceed $15,000, account number noted. Will someone move that, please? Ms. McMurray moves it. Thank you very much. I know this has been being talked about, for some time in the project, but Alan, please
Yeah.
give detail.
So as most of you know, we are building on the football field, and since the day one that option was decided on, managing the relocation of the sports that goes on the football field and the softball field in front, it's kind of challenging, and I think the important thing to know is that the athletic director from the Norwalk High School is extremely cooperative and creative in terms of finding a way to relocate the sports. I mean, fundamentally, our priority has always been for the school is the education come first, right? So by building the school on the football field, we're not impacting education, and also the indoor sports we're not impacting. It's the outdoor sports. Those outdoor sports, a lot of them is actually off-site already. I don't even know all the sports in terms of which one is on site, which one is all off-site right now. But generally speaking, we have football, the home games, and I think soccer, varsity plays there. Field hockey. I know, again, I don't really know all of them. I think some of them actually, a lot of them is actually Nathan Hale. But so working with the athletic director, we've gone through it. I think that the challenge has always been, I always thought challenge was a track and field. We had to move all the kids to Brian McMahon because finding another track, it's impossible in town because there's no tracks around. And also, we look at potentially like practicing on like even City Hall track kind of thing. It's just not acceptable because it's not paved, even though it's not the regulation pattern kind of stuff. But running on stone dust isn't the thing to do anymore, kind of thing. So anyway, so we went through all the different sports. Again, the challenge is actually turned out to be originally we were thinking of moving tennis to Oak Hills, but Oak Hills are clay courts. And this time of year, they start in March. And this time of year, they can't prepare the clay court because it's still somewhat frozen and wet. And also clay is a little different from subject to weather a lot more than asphalt. So it can affect the games and practice. And also it's very different from other courts around the state in Fairfield County. So it's not, so what we decided for tennis is actually go to Ely site, which is the grassroots tennis facility, which are 6 courts. So we Doug worked out something with the with the what you call it, with grassroots tennis, so they're moving over there. And so the athletic director worked with recreation department to figure out which field they could use right after school. And the commitment on the city side on is that we will provide transportation for them, because what happened is that we're not doing the sports that are offsite already. The Board of Ed provide transportation, but these relocating these other sports really is related to this project. And also, this is the busing that we're providing. It's actually contracted services, so it's not like staff person providing some services. So it makes sense that we are impacting these sports, and we need to help provide transportation. So it's a working relationship with Board of Education. That's why it doesn't come out of their operating budget. And this is only for this semester only. So I think it's the two sports. I believe it's a softball. I put it down here, softball, and I think it's West and soccer. I think it is. Anyway, so we the transportation person from Board of Education met with this. They have two companies that Board of Ed works with. We decided that we don't want to use the buses that bring kids back and forth to school, because we don't want them to be delayed and then come back and then in traffic and they got stuck in traffic, and they say they lose practice time. So I think what we're doing is we're providing these smaller buses for those, and the ones that you can, if the site is actually on a bus route, they would go on the regular bus. But we're not having a bus to go drop off the kids, regular kids kind of thing, and then come back to pick them up. If they can get on the bus, there's room in the bus, they would go on the bus and go to those practice sites. So when we work it out, I think the number came out a little more than 12,000. And then because there's still some unknowns how this works or not, so I requested the Congress approve 15,000 as an allowance, so that there's a little room in case that what we propose doesn't work. We need to do something a little different. I have the ability to approve it. So there's a little bit of contingency built in. It's about $3,000 built into this number. Oh, that's it for me.
All right, okay, thanks, Alan. Yes, I think it's good to use different buses than the buses that are taking kids to and from school, because there are delays, and so that sounds like a good plan to me. Ms. McMurray.
Thank you, Chair. So Alan, I have a couple questions. You said this is for this semester. Are we using this sort of to determine what we might need for the fall semester and moving forward? Is this sort of like a test?
Interesting question. I think that it is a little bit of test, a little bit of I think for next spring of 2025, whatever we do now, and assuming this all work, I mean, we have every reason and expectation this to work out, because there's a lot of thought behind it by the transportation person of Board of Education and the athletic director, because it gets into the coaching staff and stuff like that. It's getting a little complicated. Now they go offsite and parents to pick them up and all the other stuff. So all those things be talked about and stuff. Yes, this will be the scenario, the format that we'll look to next year, 2025. And if any modification of this, what we plan right now, we will incorporate for next year. Fall is totally different. It's different sports, different location. So
Right.
in the next few months, we're going to do the similar thing. I think this will give us a I don't want to sound like we're like trial and error kind of thing. I mean, there's a lot
Like a
of thought
jumping
behind
off
it.
point, right?
Right. Excuse me?
Like a jumping off point.
Yeah, right. So I think as we do this year, again, there's different sports, different like certain sport. When you go to a turf field, the weather condition is not as critical, because a turf field can dry faster, and because there's drainage underneath. When you
Right.
go to grass field, it's like it could be muddy, and the playability could be different. So fall sport is a little different. I think fall is soccer, and is it lacrosse? I'm not even sure. So I think they go into I think West Rock. I think most of that kind of thing. I'm not definite. Anyway, so yes, for fall would be different, and then we'll look at those things this early summer and finalize a strategy and before the summer, and I'll come back again to ask for a budget for the fall, and then for next year we know much better. Then these numbers will hold better next year.
Right. And then my second question about this is, was this built into the budget in terms of construction and everything, or is this coming out of another line item? Like, is this part of the
right.
building budget?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a number for this, and we have a, if these number holds true, this number and the force, we actually budget more than, I don't want to say, we are still negotiating with the bus company, so I don't want to say we have too much, we have money available kind of thing.
Sure.
Right. So, but at the same time, this is budgeted item, and this is less than what we budgeted. But at the same time, there are many other things that that we need money for. We just again, changing topic a little bit. We are working on the builder's risk insurance. That insurance is $700,000 for insurance. So it's some of these numbers that we get is kind of crazy. But at the same time, is we budget less than that. So these numbers get budget number. We have more than enough money to cover the transportation costs if this is what we're projecting here right now with these numbers in front of us. But at the same time, it's there are other things that eating up money at the same time.
Right. Last point of clarification, which has something to do with this, but more what we talked about last month. You and I and Joanne, I had asked a question about youth sports last month. And I just want to go on the record and say that the wrong information was shared in last month's meeting, that youth sports are going to be impacted by this project. Hopefully not negatively, but everybody has to be flexible. Is that correct?
Right. I just want to publicly apologize for my misunderstanding when we talk about youth sport. I think youth soccer. I think was that what you're talking? Bottom line is I misunderstood the question. I thought you were referring to the high school sports as whether it's being impacted or not. Even high school sport, we are impacting in a way, except that we are not for high school sport. We're not changing the all the sports are fully. All the programs are in place.
Mhm.
The enrollment for those programs we're not reducing kids. But I do not know anything about the recreation side because I don't deal with it. So my apology, because I thought when we're talking about my focus always means I got to take care of the high school sport because that's
Right.
my primary objective. And those shifting or managing of the recreation side is all done by Recreation and Parks Department, which is Kim, who I don't really know either. So again, we don't get our constructions. I didn't get into that conversation. So it was my misunderstanding of your question. So I provide you with the wrong answers, I believe.
I appreciate it, Alan. And, things happen. I am working with Kim and Ken and Robert on getting an update for the little leagues for the youth. I do just want to make sure that because you're dealing with the high school and they're dealing with youth, you all are communicating cohesively. Otherwise, it can be a very bad game of telephone because one feeds into the other and vice versa. So, just to make it more cohesive or as cohesive as possible, we know we all have to be flexible, and this is going to be a challenge for a lot of people. In the end, hopefully it will be all worth it. But just want to make sure that we're communicating the right information to constituents, especially when they come to us with questions. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, appreciate your understanding. I just want to say that too, a couple of things. I don't want to prolong this conversation too much. I think sometimes it's sometimes we actually purposely, me and Joanne purposely stay away from getting that's not our thing, right? Recreation park and schedule. I don't even know where JV play. I mean, I keep saying JV. Is that not JV? It's junior sport, where they play, where lacrosse. We have no idea. So we don't want to talk about it because exactly what you said. If we don't know, we shouldn't say anything. So we try not to say anything. So our focus really on the know-how. It's not that we don't care about the other stuff. It's just that misinformation it's a problem. So I think that's what happened last time. I don't think we were just talking about I think we were talking about tennis last time, and then it just got a little confusing. Anyway, but it is a challenge because when the high school sports need to be located at a location, there are definite impact. How big, how little. I think the flexibility is very important from all sides. I said this a little bit, and if everybody can pardon me for just 2 more minutes, it's just that this project, it's trying to maintain a support and positive attitude, it's very challenging because the kids and this project really benefit the kids in fourth grade and fifth grade and third grade, this kind of thing, and everything we do, it's about future education, high school education. The family and the kids are going through it. They had to go through construction, all the challenges and stuff. And I fully recognize those things. In fact, I have, when I talk to my project team, I stress the importance that we as a team need to be very proactive in answering their questions, finding best way to solve their concerns. But at the end of the day, it's very difficult, but we have to do everything we can because otherwise, the council, the mayor would get all the complaints and stuff, which they are going to come. I just want to be, I know this is a public hearing, but I just want to be realistic about it. That, we're going to do everything we can to satisfy, to be flexible in terms of construction schedule, noise, dust, access and all of that stuff. At the end of the day, I don't think we can solve the problem because these kind of projects kind of impact everybody, from the neighbors, from the kids, from parents. Now, it's just like the sports team, they got to pick up the kids in a different part of town. Change is the problem, right? But then we just have to keep a positive attitude that, we'll work together and find the best solution. May not be the perfect one, but we're going to do our best. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Burnett.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson Smith. My question on this item is not so much the money, the 15,000. I guess it's more around the process. Why is the Board of Ed not funding this as normal course of business? Why are we going through some kind of reimbursement between the city and the Board of Education for a service for the students? Why is it not just part of their regular course of business? Why are we transferring money back and forth? And second to my question is, if that was part of some initial agreement, what other agreements have we made? For example, if they get transferred from Norwalk High to McMahon to conduct a game, and they want to make it look and feel like a home game, and they put up signage and so forth because they don't have it at Norwalk High because we're doing construction, is the city also paying for that and then reimbursing the Board of Education? So how many of these reimbursements are we going to see as it relates to the Norwalk High project, which is benefiting the entire city? I would think the Board of Ed would cover these costs as just normal course of business.
I can answer it this way. I'm not sure. I just wanted to, again, as straightforward as this could be. They in terms of their operating budget, they're not defending them anyway and stuff. I understand, the Board of Ed operating budget, it's quite debatable during budget process. But at the same time, it's not an item they included in the operating budget as a cost expense that they were going to carry. It's not a lot of money, like you said, but at the same time, it is something that's not in their budget, operating budget. Second of all, is that as much as some of these items we are looking to support it, there are other things that I don't. There's always a conversation between me and the Board of Education staff about what we would support in this project, what would we not. So there's always a little bit of negotiation. There's something that we will pick up. There's something that we don't pick up. When something I do not pick up is that, when working on like Cranberry or Jefferson School, whatever, I don't pick up the staff costs when they have to stay overtime or they have to open the building on the weekend and stuff like that. So again, this stuff goes both ways somewhat. So it's somewhat negotiated as we move forward. These are not like, again, we add up 5 years, this is going to add up like maybe $200,000, right? But at the same time is that there are many things that I agree with them on, and there are many things they don't agree with me, kind of thing. So we work it out, and we look each other in the eye and come up with those decisions. Okay, I'll pick this up, but you pick up that one up. It's kind of interesting because it's like there's many things, like you said, there are many things that are on the borderline of who should pick up. It's like utility costs. When the building, it's like renovating a building, how much do they have to cover in their operating expenses? How much you're picking up construction? And there's many others. A security guard. even Norwalk High School, these questions will come up. We got to deal with each one of these on its own. Like for whether they change the traffic pattern because of construction, are we picking up like a security guard or somebody to direct traffic or something like that? It's something that, and also when like, when a school is being moved, we pay for moving costs, but I think they pay the teachers some hours for packing because that's not part of the requirement. So we don't pay that. So there are different things, there are different items they pay for, there's different ones, but it's not really defined as well. It's something that I work with them to find a good balance on. So again, this is also a contract out service. So it's not like by staff, usually the staff one, the one that I resist making payment on, but we get the contracted outside service is something that it's more reasonable for us to pick up.
If I could just follow on to that. So are we moving down a path that every time there's an expense associated with Norwalk High students being at another location other than Norwalk High for whatever reason because of the construction, that we're going to get invoiced by the Board of Education that the city needs to cover that expense? Is that the path we're heading down?
No, I think this path has always been there. You don't see it because I'm generally speaking, don't get me wrong, I'm generally speaking, I'm the gatekeeper for the city side. So when the Board of Ed has a request for reimbursement for certain item, I look at it and to justify whether it's a construction related item. If we are directly causing this related to this cost, then I would consider it more seriously. But sometimes it's like, again, if there are staff issues and staff services, additional services stuff, I usually don't consider it. So there is a discussion behind the scene between me and the Board of Ed staff that, again, it's not a new path. It's something that we do every project, whether we actually be paying for. We're changing an alarm system from like renovating a building. If something that got moved one location and temporary, whatever kind of thing, who pays for that? This question comes up regularly. And there are some things that I would pay for, there are certain things I won't pay for. So we work it out internally. So again, this is a little unique one, and this is also, it's very visible one. And the cost is more than like $5,000, $10,000, but you have 5 years, it's a substantial, but at the same time, it's a, I think it's a reasonable thing for us to pick up this project, but there are other things that come in that I don't think is reasonable. I won't be submitting, and I'll work with Board of Ed to have them take care of it. So we have to take it, each one of these as it comes up. Again, most of these small and the council doesn't see it. This is a larger one, but I think it's based on the kind of trend, or not trend, based on the history of the relationship between the city and the Board of Ed in terms of administrating these projects. This is something that we would pick up. We never done this before in the sense that we never had to relocate a sports program because of construction. But at the same time, I think it's appropriate for us to pick it up under these circumstances, because they are actually working very hard to find alternate locations and stuff. And I think that's it's working together to solve a problem. So I don't want, it's also the relationship as well, and the taxpayer is paying for this one way or the other. So I'm not trying to make it lighter, but at the same time, the responsibility, we got to take care of it. And I think it's okay for the construction side to take care of it.
Just one final thought, Chairperson Smith, on this question. I think that's why it's important for us to have a defined process, because this is a long project, 4 or 5 years, and personnel can change. So we have to go beyond having what I'll call a handshake agreement and have a very defined process in terms of these reimbursements or potential reimbursements, because they will add up over the course of 4 or 5 years. And everyone needs to be on the same page as to what could potentially be reimbursed and what should be part of the normal course of doing business for the Board of Education. This is a major project, and as you just stated, we've never done this before, relocating students because of a major building. And because of that, I think a very defined process needs to be created and shared so that everyone's on the same page and we're not nickeling and diming every time a student is, or students are using another facility and we get asked, well, who's covering that expense? Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for the electricity? Who's going to pay for the lights? Who's going to pay for the security? You know, the list goes on and on. There should be a defined process and not just a simple handshake agreement. I'm complete.
Ellen, can you just give an example of another time during, you know, maybe Cranberry construction where we might have paid for, there was an agreement where we paid for something. And on the other hand, something that, that you pushed back on, that they might have asked for, if anything comes to mind.
I'm thinking. I think one of the reasons why you see this one is because it's a larger number. So, you know, it's also 5 years, exactly what Mr. Burnett was talking about. It's a long-term process. It's $17,000, which isn't a lot for a multi-million-dollar project or operating budget of Board of Education. But at the same time, we add up, this is only for the spring semester. We add the fall semester and times 5. It's probably like $200,000. So it's not when you get it, that's the same reason when Mr. Burnett talked about it. I am bringing to land use and common council, you are aware of it. There are many smaller items that we deal with that I agree with or not agree with. Even when we finish a project, I can't think of like very the first one that come up with is like after we finished Cranberry School, cameras. When we started the project, the consultant identified a location of 35 cameras kind of thing. And after we opened the school, then the administrative staff, I mean, not everybody can read plans and see exactly what it is that they show on a drawing here. That, and then after we put the cameras up and we look at on the monitor, we said, well, I think we can use another camera. It's not covering this area. So at that point, whose cost is that? We debate that even on that item, because putting another camera costs $5,000, because now you got to run new conduits and wiring, and you got to, you know, everything expensive at that time after the project's finished. So there's certain ones I agree with, certain ones I don't agree with. It's like, again, it's like at some point when you finish a building, you know, we meet the specifications, something they reviewed and approve on. But when you come down to open the building, if there's area that's not covered by the camera, covered well by the camera, they want something. Is it a board item, or is it a construction item? So certain thing I will give, and then you know what, certain thing I would say no, we're not gonna do it because, you know, because your idea changes. I mean, by the time we start the project, I think Norwalk High School is going to be a lot. I think I'm jumping all over the place, right? A little bit, but at the same time,
Question about that really quickly. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
If this is construction, this busing, is this part of the 80% reimbursement, or is this going to be out of our pocket as taxpayers?
it's out of our pocket. It's not reimbursable.
So it's 100% on us. Okay.
Yeah.
I also have another question when you're ready for me.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, it's funny thing. I'm sorry. One other thing is that I always feel that when we finish a construction project, we meet all the design criteria and construction criteria. But especially at school, at Norwalk High School, when we finish in 3 years from now, the administration, staffing change, the needs changes, everything, the program changes and stuff. I really feel that the board should have some money set aside way over the building. If they want to refine and change things, they need to have some money to do those things. Because when we finish a building, for us to go back there, the cost is extremely, extremely high because our contract is not on site anymore. We have to pay like premium pricing for somebody to come back to do work for us because they don't want to come back here. They move on, you know? So, but at the same time is when they want to, so I think the board should plan to have some money aside for Norwalk High School, potentially $200,000, because once we move in, some teacher or somebody, geez, you know what? This is a different teacher. They use this room differently. They need 2 more outlets, right? How do we put that in? I'm not going to go in and continue to make changes because I got to finish the project and move on. So the capital money wasn't really, but then if they requested originally, we would have done it. But the problem is that things changes for a long time. You know, construction is 3 years, design is 2 years, 5-year period. by the time we design it to then, but we hand over the building to them. So there are changes needed. So it's something that's very interesting because I feel that even police station and fire department, as soon as you move in, the needs are different. So we need to be sensitive to that and then put again. So back, not really answer Greg's question, but at the same time is there are many times they ask for stuff even after the building is finished. Then I sit down with Bill Hodel or different member or the security department or whatever. They say, no, we're doing this. No, we're not doing this. So there is a little bit of, I don't think there's one rule that fits the whole thing because the situation is very different. Why something is done this way because somebody requested it, but the person is not there. But now how do you meet this program need? Well, on and on. So they are in reality, even you have a set of guidelines or rule. It not even fits so perfectly. So you need two sides to be able to sit down to work out, find ways to do things so that the project doesn't suffer or the program doesn't suffer.
So to clarify, and we'll get to your question in a minute, Heather. So to clarify, we're not going to be paying to take students to an away game, for example, from Norwalk High. This is just specifically construction related for the
practice and home games. That's offsite, and not the existing sports either. They don't deal with the existing sport. They go offsite right now. We're not touching. We're not paying for any of that.
Right.
It's just that because they don't have the field right now. We are directly needing those teams to move offsite, and this is something that we, generally speaking, it's acceptable between our conversation along, and they've been very proactive in terms of finding ways to minimize this cost. So it's again looking at site that potentially we're actually looking at a number of kids on certain buses, how full they are, and how even they after school. I mean, at the after school busing, it's usually less kids because some kids stay behind to do that's at school. So there's more capacity on those buses. So we actually look at that. So when we go to a location, it's whether there's a bus, it's part of the bus route, so they can actually get on the buses. So that's not included in here. It's just that when there's not a part of the bus route, then we need to provide transportation.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Dunn.
That was my question mostly. It's, school spirit's very important. And have you been able to work with the transportation to TMP, I guess, have you had to or had conversations about changing any of the bus routes and the timing so that it aligns with when the games are so that other kids can get from the high school to those games or practices? And are we utilizing our TOD kind of busing, trying to get more busing and less cars as well? Will that save us some money to use our own buses?
I haven't gotten to that level of conversation, but I believe Johanna, who's a transportation from I can't pronounce the last name, Ziegler or something like that. She's very in tune and she's a very organized person in terms of working with the bus company because it's very complex. The bus route is not so simple. She never mentioned to me about rescheduling buses. She looked at the occupants or the low capacity of the buses to see whether, again, if they go to making it up here.
Alan, I'm not talking about school buses or outside contracting buses. I'm talking about the city bus that goes right past the school every hour that the kids get on for like
this public busing.
We have, I think it's Route 13 that goes right past the high school, but it only comes like every hour. Have you worked with them to make it so that the buses, the route aligns better so they don't have to go to the hub before they go to where they're going? And if the timing can be rescheduled, because we could use our own city buses and not have to hire some people in some instances.
We never talk about public buses.
What?
So we have not talked about public buses.
Well, especially if other kids want to get their parents, we're trying to move to a more bus transportation oriented developed city. It would be a good idea to save some money that way. That's my thoughts on it. Okay.
I think that might be hard to do with sports teams, moving kids to
not the sports teams. Like if you're a kid and you want to go see your friends play or practice or. And again, we could get some kids to practice if there's just small groups of them, could just get on the city bus. But right now that bus only goes kind of from the high school down to the beach, which I don't think there's much along that line. Everything else goes to the hub and then to other areas of Norwalk, but there's not to say that they couldn't do some new routes because they haven't done any new routes in a long time.
Yeah,
And
they're
it should be.
they are working on this, the transit district. So I would, encourage you to reach out to Matt Pence. And even you can start by
Yeah.
yeah, even start by reaching out to Jim Travers and he could put you in touch,
Yeah, Joanna's great. I just think we need to look beyond the school system as far as the busing.
Mr. Freyer?
Yeah, I think this is a fascinating example of Project Creep. That the more we get into it, the more bits and pieces we see that never got covered right at the very beginning. And I think that I think that this is important enough that we've got to do something positive about this. This is, it seems like every time we come across something like this, we talk about it, but nothing happens about it. And then when it comes to budget time, it all becomes a crisis. It's got to be clear who's responsible for this. As Greg says, this is, and Alan mentioned that, if you've got plans that are put together, for example, the camera example that Alan just said, that here you got plans, everybody signs off on the plans, and then comes to see, it comes to the point where the cameras are aimed the wrong way, or we don't have enough of them, or whatever. That should then be if I ask for some construction done on my home, some alterations, and I approve the plans, and they come there, and then I decide I want another camera someplace else or another light here or there, that's on me. I've got to pay for it. It should be the same thing for the Board of Ed. And the same thing for the city, or any department within the city should be the same thing.
Jim, I'm sorry, I don't disagree with you. This is my philosophy too. The Cranberry School, the person from the Board of Ed, security person, left after before this project started. So they were involved in design phase. The principal was different too. There's two principal changes. The initial principal, interim principal, and the final one. So when we build this stuff, we build it to the plan that was given to us to review and approve and stuff.
Right.
By the time and I said it publicly, the principal at Cranberry School, she's very well, very professional, worked with us quite a bit to the point that there's a very, very good working relationship. At the end of the project, when it's open and she's not happy with something, if it's a security camera, it's very hard for me to say no at that point. The reason my position is same as yours, but she's very helpful. And this is the only thing she wanted. And also it's like, once you mentioned it, then if there's an issue, security issue, we are liable, lack of better words. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I think all those factors into consideration, and we dealt with those issues separately. So it's never that simple. It's like yes or no kind of thing. It's a relationship. It's how much she probably saved us a lot of money by working together with us, throughout the projects. So they didn't want this. They be flexible. We don't have to provide certain things and stuff like that. So it is a working relationship. That's what I value. And when you come down to this issue, at the end of the day, you know what? You could save us $100,000 making it up here. At the same time, you want $5,000 to put a camera for security reason. It's very hard for me to say no. So just want to share that with you because it's never that so simple.
I couldn't agree with you more, but it's not your call. It should be, this should be a contract that we have, even though it's a Board of Ed and it's a city. We should have a contract between the two of us that this is how it works. And, changes, the security guy changes, that doesn't make, that shouldn't enter into the conversation at all. It's what we paid for, and now someone's changing it and going to ask for something else. There's accountability there. If it goes over budget, you're the guy who's on the line now because it's over budget. okay? And it's not your fault. Somebody's changed their mind. They didn't think it all the way through. I think that we've got to, we got to draw a line in the sand someplace, and I don't know how we go about doing it, but maybe it's a charter revision or something that says that if you're going to be involved in planning for a new school, you own that new school. You are responsible for everything that goes in there, and you sign off on it. And if the changes come along,
we lost you a little bit.
Yeah, you're freezing up,
in
Jim.
construction, I don't know how we go about doing something like that. Okay.
So, it
Uh,
sounds to me like that it's worth having some discussions to perhaps with the CFO's office. I know we don't have a CFO right now. CFO's office, perhaps the law department, because I think these are some important. These are important. I know we've talked. This has been part of the plan all along, right? To cover the.
I'm sorry, and let me just make sure that everybody understand me correctly. We did budget for this. In fact, we budgeted more
Right,
money.
that's what I was just about to say.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, we budgeted actually $500,000 for this.
Mhm.
So it's our number happening, and then with this number, we're basically looking at about $200,000. I'm not trying to make it lighter or whatever, so I just want to make sure that I didn't want to talk about how much we have because I don't want the bus company to hear that and then want to charge us more money. That's the reason I don't want to talk about it. But
No, I get it, and I'm aware. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like this is something that we had planned as on the
Yeah.
city side as part of the project. But for some of these other things that come up after. I think maybe we want to explore, some more specific agreement.
Yeah, I think also that when this project being developed, that question came up by the Board of Ed members too. That in terms of like moving kids around and paying for busing, who's paying for it? And my response is that, well, if it's triggered by the construction project, we'll cover under the project, and that's the same reason. That's the same logic. I have to include a budget number in our numbers. So again, it's end of the day, if we don't budget it, if we're forced to budget it, they will budget. But here we actually work together. What you don't see is me and the Board of Ed staff work together to minimize this number. That's why it's like $17,000. We think of different ways to minimize this, to figure out how to stagger it, and in certain places they can catch the regular school bus, and then we don't have to pay for busing. So there's a lot of thought behind it. So it's not like just because we're paying for it, they are just we are doing we're not financial responsible. I think there's effort behind this because it's between us and them. There's a check and balance in terms of like find solution to financial responsibility on this thing. Okay.
Okay, any other thoughts or comments? Okay, then I will call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor. Mr. Wiggins in favor, so that's 5 opposed. Okay, Mr. Burnett, abstentions. Okay, okay, and Ms. Dunn, you're an abstention. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, moving on to item D. Review bids for window cleaning at various city buildings and refer the following to the Common Council for action. Authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Integrity Cleaning to provide annual window washing cleaning services for various city buildings for an initial term of 3 years in the amount of $71,804.66 plus 2 one-year options, effective dates from 4/1/24 to 6/30/27, and 2 one-year options from 7/1/27 to 6/30/2029. Account numbers noted. Will someone move that, please? Ms. Dunn, thank you.
I just want to when I first got this email, this came from Neil, who works for me, and this actually is for 6 buildings. City Hall and Council is just being considered one building. And the dollar amount is for 3 years total, so it's not per year. So when you divide the 7,000 to 6 building and 6 building for 3 years combined, so it's not per year. So the number isn't as you know appear to you with washing window for $71,000. It's 6 building and total cost for 3 years. So you can divide it up. That's like a few $1,000s per building. These are larger buildings of the city, more visible with the police headquarters, fire headquarters, and city hall. So we're not doing like Ben Franklin's and Roosevelt Center and Ely School kind of these places, or DPW garage and things like that. It's really the more public building. The window washing only once a year. We try to do in the springtime after the winter season with snow and stuff. So get it clean for 1 year, and that's about it. So again, first I saw the number $71,000 to washing window. I was like, what is that kind of thing? And then when I find out that it's for combined 3 years, so we divide it up, it's somewhat reasonable. That's all I have.
Sounds it to me. Comments, questions? Mr. Frere? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
if that's for 3 years, what was the other guy who bid $225,000 thinking?
Yeah, right?
about?
Yeah. Jet Star Cleaning. That was gonna be some real cleaning.
I have a comment about
Cross
that.
him off
Go ahead.
the
Go ahead.
list.
I know we went on a tour of the police station and I noticed how dirty the windows were given the construction going along the train station. I'm thinking maybe we want to have more than once a year for them. They may need a little bit more of that. So it's something to keep in mind or ask about. Okay. Or
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, initially when we first finished the building for the police and fire headquarters, the both chiefs requested twice a year. But every year when we look at operating budget, every time we ask to cut, that's probably the first thing that we cut. So we reduce from twice a year to once a year. So it's really for financial reason. And again, we always pick spring to do this because just psychologically springtime comes and everything else. I mean, pollens, we try to do after the pollens is all gone kind of thing. But anyway, so that's really a financial reason why we don't do it twice a year.
Ms. McMurray?
I was gonna just add on to what Ms. Dunn said, because that was something I was gonna bring up. I mean, for the police station specifically, because there's construction happening across the street from there, I think it would, I mean, I don't know when that construction is gonna be complete, but I think it's soon-ish. We should probably wait to do the window cleaning until after that's done. Otherwise, it's sort of a moot point.
Yeah.
Since there's so much dust there. And I would assume the same would happen with any other city building that has construction around it right now. There is a lot of construction going on, and I know it's not our construction necessarily, but you'd hate to go in and spend the money and clean within this contract and then have it get dirty, 2 days later because there's still construction happening. So I would just take that under advisement as we're scheduling these things out.
Duly noted. And fire headquarters even more because right next to 95, it's never ending, right? So, but thank you for that information. I didn't know. Okay, I'll relate to Neil to the extent that we can separate that police headquarters to a little later on, and we'll talk to the chief about it, make sure that he's okay with it, kind of thing. But we'll do the right thing.
Any more comments or questions? Okay, let us vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Mr. Wiggins. All right, that's unanimous. Very good. Okay.
I'm sorry, did Jim raise your hand?
Oh, is he frozen? I think you froze.
No, everything's freezing up all the time, so I didn't know
Yes,
whether
you're freezing up. Are you a yay?
everybody else is freezing too.
Yeah, I think I froze there for a while.
Yes.
What's your vote? Yes? Okay, perfect. Okay, so that is unanimous. Okay. Mr. Frere? Go ahead. Is your motion?
Just voted yes, that's fine. I'm trying to vote yes.
Sorry, I'm missing you. I think we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much, Ms. McMurray. Okay, motion to adjourn, all in favor? It looks unanimous. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Good night, y'all.